If you had asked me 5 years ago what the biggest threat to the US economy is, it would have been that China overtaking us as the largest economy in the world would upset the balance of the dollar being the business currency of the world. Since we regulate and control the dollar, the fact that virtually all business is conducted in it means that we have a huge amount of leverage on the global economy, but that would be upset if China possibly overtook us as the largest economy in the world. However, for the last 5 years, China has really stumbled and struggled. So the question becomes, what is it now that is the biggest threat to the US economy? And unfortunately, that answer is, how bad could China fall apart if they continue to stumble in the way they are and kind of go through an economic collapse or calamity? So we're going to talk all through that. This is the first article from the Wall Street Journal that we're going to go through, which is talking specifically about residential real estate, which is all over the news on how bad it is. But I think this chart specifically sums it up the best. So yellow is billion square meters of new residential starts, and green's what they actually completed. Now, for a growing economy, you would expect new starts to always be higher than completed because they're multi-year projects, and some projects will fall apart, not get finished. So we would expect new to be higher. But once you get up here, it gets really dramatic, right? We're literally starting twice as many properties as get finished. And this is persisting since 2010. So this is 14, 15 years now that this has been going on. It talks about down here about how debt and local governments that have been trying to kind of bail out some of these things, hidden debt worth anything from 400 billion to 800 billion. Now, when you're dealing with China, the reason they refer to it as hidden debt is you only get information out based on what you can kind of measure from the outside and what the Communist Party is telling you. So you get very poor information in China, which is one of the reasons that kind of modern business has a hard time doing business with China, because of the lack of transparency. All right, and it's not just residential. This was actually one of the first articles I ever covered on Mike Reed's Journal, which is about these mega projects that China's been doing all over the world, saddling kind of local governments all over the world, or countries all over the world with debt to build them. And then these projects are either not getting finished, or they're falling apart, or they're not reaching the goals that they were supposed to be. This is a huge problem. So this is really just to show that this is not a localized China problem. The Chinese economy is so global, just like our own, that if they struggle, it is going to be a tough spot. So this is the other article that came out. China's stock market rout has become a political problem. So China's stock market, measured here by the Hang Seng, which I'm going to pull up here in a minute, has dropped so far that the Chinese has effectively publicly said they're going to start supporting it by buying it through their own government organizations. Now, we've known for a long time that China manipulates their currency and they manipulate their stock market. That's not conspiracy theory stuff. It's pretty well known. I mean, we manipulate our currency through interest rates and things like that. It's a bit of a further step for them. But here's the Hang Seng going back to the early 90s, fallen as low as 15,300, right? You can see that for the last 5 to 7 years, it's really been doing nothing but going down, right? We have here in the US never really seen this. You'd have to go back to like World War II, 1940s, 1950s time to see a stock market that behaved like this. But this is shocking, right? It's at 15,300 right now. The last time that was a new high was in 1997, right? Like late 1997, where we saw the stock market be at this level. That's a 30-year gap where the stock market has effectively backtracked to, right? If China is manipulating its stock market, it is certainly not doing it to show results like this. So it could be conceivably even worse. All right, last thing here before I kind of get off my soapbox is unemployment. So we know, I will share a video at the end, China has massive demographic problems in that their population is aging. They are not having enough kids to support that population. And their population is so top heavy that they're really worried about workers. And then you find out that 16 to 24-year-olds have a 21% unemployment rate. It just seems unimaginable, right? At a place that doesn't have enough kids, the fact that the kids can't find jobs. Now, what it really comes down to, if you go through this article, which is very good, it's more of a picture article for those of us, who can't pay attention to anything for more than 5 minutes. It really says that China is doing a great job of producing high-quality, sophisticated, educated workers. There are just no high-quality jobs that require these people to work in their economy. Their economy is not sophisticated enough to employ all of these really high quality workers. So they end up just waiting around for something to fill up, to open up, or they emigrate elsewhere and end up working somewhere else. Of course, China changed the way that they measured the jobless rate to make it look better, and even then it was still at 15%. So still not great numbers. If you're going to measure something different to get what you want, apparently you need to keep working on that. So what's the big risk here? Obviously, the risk is if China goes through some type of a very serious economic collapse, it will have catastrophic impacts throughout the global economy. They call China the world's factory floor. They're just such a huge part of industry. But there's another risk, which is beyond the economics, which is that if we were to see some type of economic collapse or calamity even in China, it would open the door to a couple of really horrible things. Specifically that, you could conceivably see some type of a civil war fought, which of course would be horrific and no one would want to see. But it wouldn't even have to be that extreme. You could see something along the lines of, in an economic collapse, some type of a radical figure within the Communist Party come to power through some type of populist wave, which has been popular all over the world these days, and really start taking the country in a unreasonable direction, right? And even though most people will probably be like, China is the great big enemy these days, they are relatively reasonable when it comes to interactions on a world stage, right? If you were to insert a radical leader into a country like that, it could have massive impacts on global stability. I know we're not in a great spot right now with global stability. I'm not going to argue that we are, but it would be dramatically different for that. All right, I did promise you, I've done several videos on China. This is probably the best one about that population collapse. Otherwise, I hope this is informative, and I will talk to you soon.